Hello and welcome back to Fish Fridays with me, Ben, the Amputee angler, where every week I'll be talking and discussing about a fish species that lives in and around the UK. Going to talk all things about that particular fish, and we're going to talk rigs and tactics, and I'll throw in a few top tips as well. And this week we're going to talk about the cod, so stay tuned. So the mighty cod then, up there with people's favourite fish to catch, I reckon, alongside the bass. Highly sought after fish. So they live in and around all of the UK pretty much, all along the south coast, east, west, north. Get some really big catches up north actually as it goes. And they live over as far as North America, Canada, and of course all through Norway, where they have some absolutely insane cod catches over there. A nice big yellow fish, all right. Some of them have slight spots on them, sort of a motley colour to the cod. Huge mouths, absolutely huge mouths, and big solid eyes because they're a predator as well, and they primarily live in deeper water. Yellow colour into them, and they've got a nice big lateral line down the side. You can't really miss them. Underneath the chin then, they've got a barb, that cod barb that everyone associates with a cod, but it's actually all part of the cod family as well. So pouting and ling, just to name another couple that will have that barb underneath. I think it's a sensory thing. I'm not sure it's got any other uses, but I think it is just like a little sensory thing, a bit like lobster antenna. I think that's what it is there. They live to over 20 years old, so they've got quite a big lifespan, but they're sexually mature, so i.e. they can reproduce from about 2 to 3 years old. But at 2 to 3 years old, they're actually only 20 to 30 centimetres potentially. So, you know, they can breed from quite a small size. But that's sort of a personal note to me is they're called unicorns, lovingly or begrudgingly, depending how you feel about that term. They're called unicorns because they're not really seen that much in certain places. Back end of last year, 2022, though, there was some really good catches on the south coast. No real big monsters, but plenty of sort of 40, 50 centimetre fish. And for me, I think there's a bit to be learned from the bass here in that a lot of anglers, because they don't see many cod, they tend to keep them. So you see the pictures of little cod laid out on the floor. Perfectly legal to catch, you know, they're over the size limit. But from my view, I think we should be a bit more sort of eager to put those fish back. They're called unicorns because we don't see many of them. And yet there's a lot of shore anglers and boat anglers as well, keeping all these smaller, just sizable fish. Personal note, I think they should be going back and there should be a slot size brought in. But yeah, that's sort of the size, that's the age ranges they get to. Let's talk about the sizes then. So the minimum landing size for cod, or recommended landing size, is 35 centimetres, which, as I've highlighted before, I think that's far too small. I think that should be brought in line with bass at a minimum, but hey, is what it is. 35 centimetres. The current British shore record is a 44-pound, 8-ounce fish. Absolutely humongous fish that is from the shore, and the current boat record stands at a whopping 58 pound and 6 ounces. Again, I can't even begin to imagine how that felt bringing that over the side. I don't know if we're going to see those broken, purely because the stocks are declining, overfishing, and also climate change they reckon is having an effect. Essentially what they think is the water is warming up around the south coast, and the cod just aren't liking it. Whether or not that's true or not, who knows? I'm not a scientist, but we have certainly seen a massive decline in the catches and the sizes of the cod. Like I said, last year here on the south coast, there was lots and lots of cod caught, but there was nothing of any real note really, you know, all cut the pound really. So I don't know if those records will ever be broken here on the south coast, but we shall see. So rigs and tactics then for the cod. So from the shore, I don't profess to be a worldwide renowned shore fisherman, because I'm not even a renowned boat fisherman. But cod from the shore, I do know, and I have done before. A nice pennel rig baited with a whole squid, and you're not going to go too wrong. Normally that will get you the cod. However, a pennel rig or a single hook with lugworm threaded up, so 2 or 3 lugworm, whole lugworm, tipped off with a little tiny bit of squid, that is also a big winner as well. As with most places, you know, you want to be fishing the baits of what they're feeding on, so it's no good giving them something that they're not going to be feeding on. But generally, squid and lug, you can't go too wrong. Some people from the shore, they like to do the squid and wrap lug, so they wrap them all up together. They take a whole tube of the squid, stuff it with lugworm, or they'll open the squid out and they'll roll the lugworm up and make a sausage. inside the squid, and then it's bait elastic right up, and then that's presented on a, like I say, a pennel is generally the go-to way to fish for cod. On a boat then, so boat fishing for cod, again, you can do exactly the same sort of thing as you can from the shore. It will still pick you up fish, it's no different. However, on the boat, generally you're going to see the bigger fish because you're in the deeper water on the better marks. If you're bait fishing at anchor, which is how the cod are generally caught here. So you'd find a nice little mark, stick the anchor in, and you'd have your baits out the back. However, my personal favourite is a nice fist-sized cuttle, single hook through the top. You can pennel it as well. But yeah, fist-sized cuttle, head and all, and present that down nice and smelly. Unwashed, leave the skin on and pop that down. It will last against the whiting as well. And same for the shore. When those whiting are in, if you've got a small bait, they will absolutely decimate it in seconds. The cuttle, it's my favourite overall bait anyway. For those that follow the channel will know, because it is tougher and it's got the same sort of characteristics of a squid. It just lasts longer. And for me, they're also really readily available to catch through the summer and the autumn. That's why I like it. So yeah, whole fist size cuttle down, big 6.0, 8.0 hook on a decent 80-pound rig body, maybe even 100. They don't care. They've got mouths like absolute buckets cod. They will hoover up anything. If you fish a small hook, it will just get bent out. They are really powerful. They will put a bend in the rod. A cod tends to give real slow noddy bites at the start, and then it will sort of not give up, but you'll just get the odd knock. Whereas a pollock or a bass, say, will be diving and crashing, and you'll get a fight the whole way up. Cod tend to be very more noddy. But yeah, so a whole cuttle from the boat. Lure fishing then. Lure fishing for cod's absolutely brilliant from a boat, inshore as well and offshore. If you're inshore, you can use something like a Storm GT, a fish minnow, or a Biscay shad, something like that. Bounce it on the bottom. Cod, you tend to get hard on the deck, so that's where you want to be keeping your lure. They will chase a lure, and I have had them quite a few turns up, but genuinely they're down there on the bottom, okay? So that'll do you for inshore over the little patches of reef. That's where they're going to be living, and the sand. But you want to find those little holes and gullies where bait can wash into and it's going to hold fish. That's generally a good saying for all fish, really. If you can find a divot or a bit where the sand meets the rock, all the bait fish and the food that's washing along the bottom in the tide is going to wash into or hit those, and that's where you're going to find fish patrolling. Certainly that's the same for cod. Cod here, they tend to get nice and close in winter. We'll have a season where they come in around sort of September, October time. We'll see a few, then they seem to disappear, and then we get them all through winter into February, really. So we do get sort of 2 seasons, although that is a variable depending where you are. Here at Brighton, New Haven Way, that's what we see. And we're lucky enough to have the Seven Sisters there up to Beachy Head. And it's a cod breeding ground. And it's actually been designated an MCA or an MCZ, I think it is. So Marine Conservation Area, Marine Conservation Zone. Basically, there's limited commercial fishing within inside a certain distance to basically protect the cod stock. So that's that. Out on the depth, so a bit deeper on the wrecks then. So same sort of setup as you would use a pollock, really. Boom and a shad, or a nice big sort of Storm GT direct down to the bottom and retrieve it nice and slow, or hop it along. A really good method for cod that I find is if you use a twin tail lure, and I'll insert a picture in here. Yeah, a nice twin tail, and you fish it on a short 2 to 3 foot trace. So instead of your 6 to 8 foot or whatever you're going to use, you keep it nice and short, have a lead there as well, and a nice stiff rod. And that's key there. You need a stiff rod for this method, otherwise you'll lose a lot of the action in the tip if it's soft. And all you do is drop it down to the bottom and you literally hop it. So there's no retrieve, there's no sort of bringing in 20 turns and drop in. You're literally hopping it the whole way along the wreck or the ground that you're fishing. Works really well on sandbanks here where you know you're not going to lose the gear on a wreck. And literally just hop it along. And all it does is lifts up and down off the bottom, and a cod will bang it there. Really good method for cod, like I say, especially on sandbanks and ground where you know you're not going to lose your gear. So that's a good little few tips there and baits for the cod. So gear-wise for cod then, from the shore, a standard sort of beach caster and either a multiplier or a fixed ball wheel. It matters not, whatever you're comfortable with. Mono or braid, again, whatever you're comfortable using. Doesn't have to be too complicated from the shore, all right? The main part with cod is finding them. If you can find them and put a bait in front of them, you'll catch them on whatever you're throwing out there gear-wise. From the boat then, I like a nice 12-20, although you could up that if you're fishing for big cod. You could go to a 20-30 if you so wished. I always fish braid on a rod on a boat because it cuts through the water quicker and you can get away with less lead because it's a thinner diameter. You get down to the bottom quicker, so I prefer that myself. But again, mono works perfectly fine. It's whatever you want to use. They have got quite a raspy mouth, so I do tend to fish sort of an 80-pound rig body where I can. I have had them on 200-pound conger traces before. I had a 6-pound fish last year on an 8.0 meat hook with cuttle strip and a 200-pound mono, so they're not scared to take a bait. Muppets do work. They do work as a nice attractor as well, so you can use that. But like I said, 12-20 or a 20-30, a decent size multiplier reel or a fixed ball from the boat, whatever you're inclined to, and that will do the job for the cod from the boat. Well, that concludes this week's Fish Fridays on the cod. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. Like I said, it's aimed at a beginner's level, but hopefully people enjoy watching it. It can take something away, even if it's now knowing what the British record cod is. All right, I'll keep doing them, and there'll be another one same time next week at 6 o'clock, so I will catch you then.